Please feel free to adjust the playback speed to 1.25 or 1.5 depending on your preference. Jin-Woo lapped the outer perimeter of the hospital once and arrived back in front of his room. He was currently bent over and panting out heavily. His heart felt like it might explode at any second, but he couldn't give up yet. I worked so crazy hard until now, so no way I would. He somehow managed to open the door and took a step forward. When he did that, total distance ran 10 kilometers. You've completed running 10 kilometers. It was finally over. Jin-Woo fell down to his knees. His breath reeked of something sweet and bitter. His face and back were soaked in sweat. Pant, pant. As Jin-Woo tried to regulate his heavy, rough breathing while thick sweat drops continuously dripped down, a familiar message popped up in front of his eyes. You've completed daily quest. Preparations to become strong. Completion rewards have arrived. Would you like to confirm? Y/N. Jin-Woo momentarily thought about forgetting about everything and simply laying down in defeat, but quickly changed his mind. At least for now, he wanted to confirm what these reward things could actually be with his own eyes first. Confirm. The following rewards are available. Reward 1. Full recovery of the current physical condition. Reward 2. 3 additional stat points. Reward 3. 1 random box. Would you like to collect them all? Why are there so many of them? That was the first thought to enter his dazed mind after he took a gander at the contents of his rewards. But when he thought about it a little deeper, one of those rewards seemed rather useful right now, and there was also one that made him curious about what it could actually mean. For now, he urgently needed the first reward available. He was on the brink of collapsing here. Since there really was a penalty for failure, the odds of completion rewards being real were pretty D**M high as well. Well, trying wouldn't hurt anyways, right? Seriously, this thing wouldn't throw him back into the penalty zone again after it said it'd give him the rewards, now would it? As soon as he muttered that out, a gentle blue aura enveloped him. Isn't this sensation? Right away, he recalled Lee Ju-hyu's face. When he was getting healed by her, he felt the sensation similar to what he was feeling right now. If he were to put this feeling into words, then it'd be like a refreshing blast of air entering his lungs before leaving again, something like that. He felt the blue aura slowly dissipating. For some reason, he kind of felt a bit rueful. Jin-Woo got up from the floor and lightly jumped up and down on the spot and stretched his body this way and that. How can this be? His heart that felt like it might explode was beating calmly now, and his rough breathing had stabilized as well. He didn't even feel a speck of fatigue. His body that was on the brink of collapsing felt refreshed as if he just got up from a night of good rest. The effect, in other words, was top-notch. Isn't this really amazing? Jin-Woo's eyes now resembled circles. He wasn't sure whether this was some kind of magic or not, but this phenomenon could change him in the most astonishing way, without a doubt. In that case, would those stat points be the same? When Jin-Woo shifted his gaze around, he spotted a small box resting on top of the bed as well as his own stat window floating in the air. I guess that thing over there is the random box. The important thing was his stat window, though. This window displayed simple information about himself. He figured that it wouldn't be such a bad idea to leave this hospital right about now. And there was something he wanted to confirm as well. Now, where did I put it? Jin-Woo rummaged around his pockets and brought something out. It was a key gleaming in a golden hue. It featured such a simple design that it could be passed off as an accessory at a casual glance. Jin-Woo observed the key for a long time before he secured it back inside his pocket. While he was in the middle of being discharged, a certain young female nurse hurriedly ran to where he was. Pant. Mr. Sung Jin-Woo, are you getting ready to be discharged today? Pardon? Yes, I am. She was the nurse in charge of his care, Choya. Yura formed a rueful expression when she heard his affirmation. Jin-Woo didn't know why, so he could only stand there looking rather confused. He wondered if he had made a mistake somewhere, but he couldn't think of anything. Yura hesitated slightly before pulling out a small memo pad. Will be okay if you give me your contact numbers? My contact numbers? Only if you're okay with it. Could there be some test results that needed to be sent at a later date or something? Jin-Woo didn't think too much about it and took the memo pad. However, all he got from her was just that, a memo pad and nothing else. When Jin-Woo stared at her, her face reddened. What's the matter? About a pen. Please wait. She must forgotten in her rush to get here. Yura became flustered and hurriedly turned around. Jin-Woo got up to leave. His business was done here. He had already completed the daily quest that never failed to show up every day, and the application for the new phone at the association also ended faster than he expected. Jin-Woo exited from the association building and pulled the golden key out again. Is it now time to check this little guy out? Then? The information on the key floated up in green letters. Item: Dungeon Key. A key that transfers you to an instant dungeon. Can be used at the third exit of the Hapjeong subway station. He found this key inside one of the random boxes he got as the daily quest rewards. At first, he wondered why a key would come out from there, but once he saw the rarity category, he immediately realized that this was no ordinary item. This was one of the reasons prompting him to get discharged from the hospital as well. An entrance key to the instant dungeon. Whether it was called instant or not, a dungeon was a dungeon. If it was about dungeons, then he had plenty of painful memories regarding those. This one time, he participated in a raid ranked E and ended up getting wounded so badly that he had to stay in the hospital for over a week. Back then, he was able to survive because of the comrades that went with him, but if he used this key to enter a dungeon, then it meant that he had to enter it all alone. He deliberated for a long time before making up his mind. I'm sure there will be no problems as long as I just take a quick peek inside. If things looked bad, all he had to do was run away, after all. Had been running 10 kilometers every day for a while now, so he was pretty confident of running away, actually. And it was his mistake for taking it too lightly. Is there a wall blocking me? He pounded on the invisible wall and shouted at the outside, but no one replied back. People continued to carry on with their own lives, that was all. Sometimes, someone approached the Hapjeong station, but they simply vanished as soon as coming in contact with this invisible wall. It was quite likely that the place he was in and the outside world were two separate dimensions. Jin-Woo tried his hardest to force his way out of this place, which prompted a new alert message to pop up. Tearing. You cannot exit the dungeon. Please defeat the boss first or find the return crystal. It was the same message as before. The key in his possession disappeared as soon as he set foot inside the third exit of the subway station, and, by the time Jin-Woo realized things had gone rather awry and hurriedly turned around to leave, it was already too late. He was thinking of finding a hidden gate or some kind of a doorway within the third exit that would transport him to a dungeon, but his expectation was completely off the mark. And quite different from the regular dungeons, he couldn't even leave as he pleased, too. It's different from other dungeons. Jin-Woo spat out a long groan and looked behind him. What he could see now was the interior of the subway station that had transformed into a jungle. Walls were thick with twisting vines, and rancid odor akin to rotting corpses assaulted his senses. Hell, he even heard the cries of what sounded like wild beasts from afar every now and then too. It wasn't that there was a hidden entrance somewhere near the entrance of the Hapjeong station, but the entire station had become a dungeon, instead. Jin-Woo pulled the steel longsword out from his inventory. Item: Kim Sang-sik steel longsword. TAC plus 10. His back was blocked off, and he had no method of contacting outside, so the only option left was to go forward. Jin-Woo nervously swallowed his saliva and slowly descended the steps. He held his breath and surveyed his surroundings, but he couldn't sense anything particular. However, it was truly forbidden to underestimate the dangers in a dungeon. Among the low-ranked monsters, there were quite a few that knew how to mask and hide their presence very well. No, maybe because they were so low-ranked that they had no choice but to hide and wait to ambush their prey. Past the toilets, he entered deeper and encountered the underground shopping center. Shops were worn down and in complete disarray, looking more like a ruin than anything else. Seeing the humanless ruined shells of the shops dimly illuminated by the flickering overhead lamps, something felt rather ominously creepy and sinister. Flicker, flicker. A few of the lamps continued to flicker as if their life was nearing the end. Jin-Woo carefully stepped on the overgrown weeds jutting out from between the cracked floor tiles and continued on forward, but he picked up on a general aura of unease and scanned his surroundings. Everything seemed so quiet and still, but he did sense a gaze of something. And then there was this smell too. A seriously rotten odor of an animal carcass with flies buzzing around was coming from somewhere. For Jin-Woo, who had frequently entered dungeons, this was a rather familiar smell. This smell. An animal-type monster. However, he still couldn't find its whereabouts at all. Just like how a predator would stalk its prey. Oh, so you want to remain hidden and wait for your chance? Is that it? In that case, he should give it one. Jin-Woo deliberately turned around and presented his back. And very slowly, retread the path he had taken until now. An animal would try pounce on the prey as soon as its back was shown. An animal-type monster would be no different. And so, it happened when he took his third step. The shop window of a clothing store behind him shattered into pieces and something jumped out. And this something, as soon as it landed on the ground, leapt towards Jin-Woo's exposed neck in one go. Jin-Woo had been getting ready for a sneak attack like this one, so almost immediately he swung the sword in the direction of the sound. It was a perfectly executed instinctive counter. Swish! The sharp edge of the blade sliced open the creature's maw. The monster spat out a pained cry as it flew away from Jin-Woo and crashed on the ground, rolling around in a heap. SFX for a dog-type whimpering, repeated. It was a huge wolf with a reddish coat of fur. The wolf with its maw sliced away wiggled around and threw a seizure-like fit as if it was under a great deal of pain. When he took a closer look, its name also appeared on top of its head, just like the centipedes from the penalty zone. Iron-Fanged Lichen. However, unlike before, its name was in white letters, not red. There is no time to waste here. This was the perfect opportunity while the monster could not move from its wound. Jin-Woo threw his body forward. He ran hard and fast, and chopped down with his sword, separating the creature's head from its body. Roar! Lichen spat out the final roar and stopped breathing afterwards. You've killed an iron-fanged Lichen. However, the joy of victory was temporary. Two more lichens jumped out from their hiding place from behind the shop's darkness. D***MN it was in a pack? Jin-Woo's eyes grew wider. They bared their big fangs and closed the distance in an instant. Jin-Woo's expression crumpled dismally. He must have chopped down too hard from all the excitement, because the sword was lodged on the ground too deep and it stubbornly refused to come out. It stuck somewhere. It was at this moment that one of the lichens aimed for his face and leapt up. D***MN it. Jin-Woo ducked low. The lichen flew over his head and landed face first on the ground after failing to stop in time. Stab! When its fangs stabbed into the stone floor, cracks instantly formed on the hard surface. I guess it's not called Iron Fang for nothing. Of course, he didn't have the leeway to stay there and admire this scene. One more monster was still running towards his front at the moment, too. His sword showed no signs of coming free from its earthly prison for the time being. Screw this. Jin-Woo had no choice but to give up on the sword for now and threw a hard punch at the lichen closing in. Whoosh! Accompanied by a bone-chilling sound of wind parting ways, his fist flew straight forward. Pow! It took just one hit and the head of the lichen simply exploded. The corpse of the now headless lichen slammed into the ceiling above and then, powerlessly fell down to the ground. Jin-Woo's eyes opened up very wide and he stared dumbfoundedly at his own fist. What an unexpected destructive power that was. We will finish this chapter here. Next chapter will be out soon, so stay tuned.